wonderful day of speeches. I don't think that any political party that we have in this country could match up to the quality of those which have come before. And I think in William we have a leader who is streets ahead in terms of intellect and thought and humour and, let's face it, likability. That is the... And thank you very much for inviting me to your conference, our conference, comrades. It's a great honour, despite loathing Leeds United. And if I'm sure a lot will come out of today. I mean, it's lovely to meet everybody. It's good that we all get together. It's good that we discuss policy issues. If one thing comes out of it today, it's that we all get behind our brilliant candidate here, Wayne Dixon, and ensure that he unseats a complacent fat lump of a Labour candidate sitting over us. Let's all get out and campaign for him. This Saturday, as it happens, I was supposed to be assisting my wife in clearing out the garage, weeding the patio, and clearing the fallen apples from the garden. It was with obvious reluctance. I had to inform her on Wednesday this week that I would need to prorogue my involvement in these important autumnal tasks in order to attend the SDP conference. And that while I noted her impassioned objections to this decision, I had to tell her that I had already procured assent from the Queen to come here, and that it was perhaps too late in the day for her to convene a Supreme Court to reverse this decision. I have to tell you that what happened next saw a degeneration in the conversation into what I can only call unparliamentary language, and which at one point involved the phrase total complete twat. Nor was my position helped when I pointed out that whilst it was undoubtedly important to clean out the garage and to remove the apples from the lawn, I was doing this for my country. At which point the twat phrase was repeated once more. But I'm here and very, very, very grateful to be here. And this is actually going to be a very modified speech of the one I had intended to make. It is significantly toned down. And so I showed a copy of my original speech to a panel consisting of Jess Phillips, the Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow, the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Duchess of Sussex, perhaps the four people I admire more than any others in this country of ours. And they advised me to remove from the speech this following list of words: betrayal, collaborator, surrender, humbug, traitorous, backstabbing Remainer bastards, and also they advised that it would be better if I removed several allegations, all of them entirely fictitious and made up by me out of spite, relating to the personal, intimate habits of Lady Hale. So you won't be hearing any of that. And so, having taken control of Brexit and made sure that it does not happen, because it will not happen, the democratically minded Remainer bloc are now taking control of the language that we Leavers use when we wish to express our mild dissatisfaction with this state of affairs. The whole thing has drifted into a world beyond parody. The hypocrisy on display in the House of Commons, the hand-wringing and whining orchestrated by the wretched Bercow, was a wonder to behold. Let's be clear about this. If you cannot use the word betrayal when talking about the Brexit process, then you cannot talk about the Brexit process. But this has been the template from the word go, right from 2016, right from June the 24th. Control the narrative, and you sure as hell end up controlling the process. And we are now in a position where the leader, as Patrick beautifully pointed out, where the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Jo Swinson, is able to tell people that she would ignore a second referendum and a third referendum, as well as the first referendum, the referendum, which was in favour of Brexit. She would ignore all of them, and that she could be heralded for that as a champion of democracy. And this, we really are living in bizarre times. And when Anna Soubry, we all like Anna, don't we? I always said it's the kind of thing like if you're talking to 5-year-olds, to get a laugh, you just say poo. And if you, with older people, it's just Anna Soubry, you know. Hey. Anna Soubry said on June the 24th that the referendum should be ignored, having said on June the 23rd that it must be respected. And when asked why she had changed her mind, because she's thick as a plate of mince, actually replied, well, I didn't think we'd lose. And yet, for the press, for the mainstream press, for the media, certainly for the BBC, the Unbiased Broadcasting Corporation, it is the Leavers who are intransigent. It is the Leavers who are undemocratic. How did that happen? It's very interesting and it's very dangerous. We have become accustomed to democracy. We've become accustomed to it always being there as a kind of eternal given in our lives, and that nothing can destroy it. And yet it is a terribly fragile thing. It depends entirely and totally upon the goodwill and concurrence of those who have been defeated. Jo Swinson and the rest, as Patrick admirably said, are not Democrats. They believe in democracy only when they have won. That is how tyrants behave. The reason we are in this mess is because, of course, as been said all through today, the political divide in Parliament does not remotely match the political divide in the country. Remainers in Parliament outnumber Leavers by 6-1. But the mismatch goes much deeper than that. The old divide between left and right has become OTO's obsolete. It is now, as has been pointed out before again, varying shades of social liberals versus the rest. Of the 9 parties represented in Parliament, only one of them, the Democratic Unionist parties, would refuse to ice your wedding cake if you were gay, or are what you might call socially conservative. The rest are all social liberals. The views of what I would reckon to be a sizable majority of the population are not represented at all, or scarcely so. And this is what I think we should think about in our, I guess, reborn embryonic party. As we sit on the sidelines, watching this uproarious shit show in Parliament, happening in front of our eyes, and frankly, our voice is not heard, our presence minimal, our influence so slender at the moment that it might slip easily through the eye of a needle. And yet the opinion polls tell us that after the brilliant new declaration of Williams, we are an extremely attractive proposition. A party which is to the left of centre economically, but is not liberal, in the modern, rather degenerate sense of the word. Now, it's interesting because today we've been talking about, we've had a series of speeches about the Social Democratic Party, what we should be doing. All of them, all of those speeches address those issues directly. We know where it comes from. It comes from community. It comes from a sense of a belief in the community, of what I used to call, when we were in Blue Labour, faith, flag and family. We all share this stuff. but there is a reluctance to campaign on it. Look, I wholeheartedly agree with our economic policies, and I would not be in this party if it were not a left-wing, redistributive party which wished to make life better for the poorest of our people. But we have to have purchase. We have to have what the policy wonks call a wedge. We have to have issues whereby it is seen that the Social Democrats are the parties which stand for this, and none of the others do. We need to get those votes. And my idea for getting those votes is to concentrate on those issues which are a little bit difficult and which will make Emily Maitlis squirm with fury on Newsnight, but will have such purchase beyond the Westminster bubble. Now, the kind of things I'm talking about. One of the most important ones was already raised and talked about by, by Brendan O'Neill, the brilliant Brendan O'Neill. And Spiked Online, which Brendan edits, has done an awful lot of work on this. How about the Social Democratic Party being the party of freedom of speech? No argument. And the great thing is that there is a growing resistance to this hyper-liberalism on campuses. And there's a growing opposition to the hyper-liberalism, as John Gray calls it, in society in general, but particularly on campuses. Students are thoroughly pissed off with this. It is a minority who are running the show at the moment, and they are against this. We should ally ourselves without question with any movement on campus which says we are in favour of freedom of speech. People should be allowed to speak at this university no matter what they're saying, because that is what universities are for. They are for the dissemination of ideas, and not just ideas which accord with what Emily Maitlis might want to see happen. And have it so that on campus, amongst these young people, our future leaders, it is identified clearly that there is one party alone which will go out on a limb for freedom of speech, and that's the SDP. I'm talking to a group later in a few weeks' time called Turning Point, who have been instrumental in setting up these kinds of organisations in the States. Now, I guess Turning Point, Candice Owens is sponsored by Turning Point. They're rightish, no question about that. But nonetheless, what they're doing has energised campuses across the country. There are more and more young American kids saying, we don't have to put up with this crap. I want to hear people speak. I quite like to hear someone speak who I don't agree with. You know, that incredible notion that you might have diversity of opinion. But we can all do this. Us here can help do this. You know, when a professor has been vilified for expressing something which doesn't accord with Emily Maitlis, I'm using her as a benchmark at the moment, by the way, as you can see. That's because I don't like her. We should write to newspapers and put at the bottom, Social Democratic Party. You know, this little kind of, it used to be called, when I was in the Labour Party, hobbit socialism, that we do this individually. We do this in our homes. We make it clear ourselves. We write to our local papers. We phone in on our radio shows. I'm in the Social Democrats, and we think this is wrong. You know, and we can all do that. And from that, other people begin to get interested. And it's not just the freedom of speech issue. I mentioned identity politics. Every speaker today, aside from Patrick, who was dealing with Brexit, has talked about identity politics, how grotesque it is, how it undermines communal values and commonality between people, and how basically all of the hierarchy, the shrieked hierarchy of victimhoods, which make up identity politics and are the bedrock of the woke left, are like a thread on a mohair jumper knitted by a moron, that you pull it and the whole thing comes apart. The country does not like it. I talk to Corbynista members of the Labour Party in my neck of the woods in Middlesbrough. They have no time for it anyway. And I say, well, you know, your party supports it. We don't care about that. People do care about it when they're not in the Labour Party. The local vote up there, the Labour vote up there, if you said, oh, by the way, we're worried about the Tavistock Clinic, for a start. We think experiments are going on there on children which are driven by a faddism and which are extremely dangerous. We also don't want your child to be told at the age of 8 that transitioning is a possible option and that they should wonder what gender they are. We think that's an intrusion too far. You say that to them. Now that comes with it a problem, because you will have the shrieked lobby of the transgender lobby will scream blue murder, but nonetheless. And there are plenty more like that, plenty more of these issues where we individually, but also as a party, must take that hard decision to go on these issues, even though it may cause trouble. With a party of doing right, with a party of doing the right thing for the common good, in favour of the family, in favour of people perhaps saving before they have children. This strikes an enormous chord in the working class area that I come from. He waited for years to have the kids and brought them up proper, and they stayed together. This stuff is crucial to how we see society, and it's been diminished, as William said beautifully earlier on, over the last 20, 30 years. Stop the propaganda in schools on gender issues. Stop the propaganda in schools on... My daughter goes to school. Every single subject these days, the United Kingdom is evil, and it has always been evil. I mean, it is just ubiquitous. And you can stop that, or at least you can bring it to people's attention and say, we don't like this, what do you think? And they will be with you. And immigration. You can say that. You'll be called a racist. But you say, I think we should control immigration a bit. I think we should get the numbers down a bit, frankly. And, you know, Emily will call you a racist. Join the club, frankly. I mean... You know, there's enormous reason for hope for our party. If the tragedy of non-Brexit has shown us one thing, it's that the present political setup is not fit for purpose. The public knows this. It is searching for something which once again breaks the mould. But they don't know we're here. Let us show them we are here. Let us show them that we're here and that we're ready. Thank you.